I watched Marcus trace the architectural blueprints with his perfectly manicured finger, explaining to his mistress how he'd designed every corner of our cliffside estate. The irony burned like acid. He hadn't designed anything. I had. 3 years of architectural school at night while working 2 jobs, countless revisions, negotiations with contractors who thought a woman couldn't possibly understand load-bearing walls or foundation engineering. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. This whole wing, he gestured grandly through the floor-to-ceiling windows, was my vision. The cantilevered design, the way it hangs over the ravine, pure genius if I say so myself. I stood frozen in the doorway of what used to be my home office, invisible as always. The woman, Sienna I'd learned from the credit card statements, nodded enthusiastically, her hand resting possessively on his arm. She couldn't have been more than 28. I was 42, apparently ancient by Marcus's standards. The foundation alone cost $500,000. Marcus continued, pouring champagne into crystal flutes I'd selected from a boutique in Prague. But it was worth it. This house is a masterpiece. My masterpiece. Every beam, every window placement, every carefully calculated angle designed to capture the sunset over the Pacific. I'd spent months studying the geological surveys, ensuring the cliff face could support the innovative design. Marcus had been too busy climbing the corporate ladder at Westfield Industries to even attend most of the planning meetings. And your wife just lives here? Sienna's voice carried the particular cruelty of youth addressing age. Doesn't she feel, I don't know, out of place in something so modern? Marcus laughed, that sharp, dismissive sound I'd heard increasingly over the past 2 years. Victoria's more of a traditional type. She doesn't really get contemporary architecture. Hell, she barely gets contemporary anything anymore. I stepped back into the hallway, my hands shaking. Not from hurt. I'd moved past that months ago when I first found the hotel receipts. No, I was shaking from the sheer magnitude of what I was about to do. My phone buzzed. A text from David Chen, my structural engineer, and, more importantly, my oldest friend from architecture school. Equipment arrives Thursday. Are you absolutely certain? I typed back quickly. Never been more certain of anything. The past 6 months had been a masterclass in deception and planning. While Marcus thought I spent my days at the botanical garden or book club, I'd been consulting with engineers, demolition experts, and most crucially, lawyers who specialized in property law loopholes that would make a corporate attorney weep. California's community property laws were clear. What's built during marriage belongs to both parties. But what those laws didn't adequately address was what happened when the primary deed holder, me, thanks to an inheritance from my grandmother that predated our marriage, decided to exercise their right to demolish their own property. Victoria! Marcus's voice cut through my thoughts. We need more ice. I moved mechanically to the kitchen, this gleaming space with Italian marble countertops and German appliances. Everything chosen by me, paid for largely by me through the inheritance, and my successful architectural consultation firm that Marcus loved to pretend didn't exist. And while you're at it, he added, not even looking at me as I passed, Sienna and I are going out tonight. Probably won't be back until late. Very late. Of course, I said softly, the dutiful wife. Sienna giggled. Does she always just accept everything? Victoria? Marcus wrapped his arm around Sienna's waist. She's old and dead to me. Honestly, she's like a ghost already. I'm just waiting for her to figure out she doesn't belong here anymore and leave. Old and dead to him. The words should have shattered me. Instead, they crystallized something that had been forming for months. I wasn't dead. But this house, this beautiful, brilliant house that had been my dream, it could be. I delivered their ice without a word and returned to my office. The real office, the one Marcus didn't know about, hidden behind what appeared to be a climate-controlled wine cellar in the basement. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up files I'd been compiling meticulously. Property deed, Victoria Elena Morrison, inherited from Gloria Elena Chen, dated 3 years before marriage to Marcus Morrison. The lot had been my grandmother's final gift. The seed money from her estate had funded the construction. Marcus's name appeared nowhere on the primary ownership documents. His lawyer had tried to add him during the building process. I'd refused, claiming sentimental attachment to keeping it in my grandmother's family line. Marcus had been too busy pursuing his vice presidency to fight me on it. Now that oversight would cost him everything. I pulled up the second file. Divorce papers. Drafted by Catherine Way, the best family law attorney in San Francisco. Filed but not yet served. Waiting for the perfect moment. File 3. Structural engineering reports from David, detailing how the house could be systematically dismantled over a period of 4 to 6 weeks, starting with non-essential elements and working toward the critical support systems. Every step legal. Every demolition permit obtained through the proper channels. File 4. This one made me smile. A complete dossier on Marcus's activities over the past 18 months. Not just Sienna. There had been 2 others before her. Hotel rooms charged to joint credit cards. Expensive gifts I'd initially thought were for me, until I realized they never appeared in my possession. Company funds, mysteriously redirected through his department at Westfield. But most damning, emails between Marcus and his boss, Byron Westfield, discussing how to force me into a disadvantageous divorce settlement. They planned to claim my architectural firm was failing, that I'd been surviving on Marcus's income, that I was psychologically unstable. They even had a therapist lined up to testify to my supposed mental decline. A therapist I'd never visited. Their mistake was conducting this conspiracy through company emails, never realizing that Byron Westfield's wife, Patricia, was a longtime client of my firm. Patricia had her own reasons for wanting to see her husband's schemes exposed. She'd quietly forwarded everything to my encrypted email address. My phone buzzed again. Patricia. Byron just left for a business dinner with your husband and some young woman. I'm filing tomorrow. Are you ready? Me. More than ready? Thank you for everything. Patricia. Thank you. Let's destroy them properly. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I closed my laptop and climbed the stairs from the basement, each step feeling lighter than the last. Marcus and Sienna were gone, leaving behind champagne bottles and the lingering scent of her perfume. Chanel, naturally, purchased with our joint account. I walked through my house, seeing it differently now. Not as the home I was losing, but as the weapon I was wielding. Every wall represented years of Marcus's lies. Every window reflected moments I'd been dismissed, belittled, erased. The cantilevered living room where he was currently probably telling Sienna more lies about his architectural genius, that would be the first section to go. My phone rang. David. I got your confirmation, he said without preamble. Victoria, I need to hear you say it one more time. Once we start, there's no going back. This house is extraordinary. You're sure you want to do this? I looked around the living room, at the sunset painting the walls gold through the precisely angled windows. I'd designed this house to be a sanctuary, a testament to everything I'd learned and achieved. Marcus had turned it into a stage for his ego and a playground for his infidelity. I'm sure, I said firmly. This house was supposed to be about building a future. Instead, it became a monument to everything I lost while he pretended to be someone he's not. If I can't have the dream, no one gets the lie. Poetic, David said. The permits are all processed. We can start Thursday morning. I've got a team ready, all people I trust completely. The story is we're doing extensive seismic retrofitting that requires deconstruction and rebuilding. Perfect. Marcus is at a conference in New York all next week. He won't even know until he sees the news. Speaking of news, David continued, I have a friend at the Chronicle, architectural correspondent. She's interested in doing a piece about the tragic demolition of one of California's most innovative private residences. She'll want to interview you. Tell her yes. I want everyone to know why this is happening. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine, good wine, from my personal collection that Marcus had never appreciated, and sat on the terrace. The house jutted out over the cliff here, suspended above 100-foot drop to the rocky beach below. At high tide, waves crashed against the stone, sending up spray that caught the fading light. I'd calculated every stress point, every load distribution. I knew this house's skeleton better than I knew my own body. And now I would dismantle it, bone by bone. My laptop chimed. An email from Catherine Way. Reviewed the documentation Patricia sent over. Marcus and Byron are planning to claim you're incompetent to manage your own affairs. They want to force a conservatorship, give Marcus control of all your assets, including the house and your firm. Byron gets a cut for legal consulting. They're filing next month. I read the email twice, feeling something cold settle in my chest. They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to rob me of everything I'd built, including my autonomy. I replied, accelerate everything. File the divorce papers Monday morning. I want Marcus served while he's in New York. Maximum embarrassment. And I want every piece of evidence about Byron's involvement sent to the SEC and the California bar. Catherine's response was immediate. With pleasure. Patricia's doing the same with Byron. We're coordinating service so both men get the news simultaneously. Your demolition permits are solid? Me. Ironclad. The house is mine, built with my inheritance on my land. He has no legal standing to stop me. Catherine. Beautiful. I'm attaching updated divorce papers. Given the evidence of his infidelity and the financial conspiracy, I'm confident we can not only protect your assets, but claim a portion of his pension and future earnings. He tried to bury you. Let's make sure he's the one left with nothing. I spent the next hour reviewing the documents. Catherine had been thorough. Every hotel stay documented. Every suspicious transfer highlighted. Every email plotting my downfall cataloged and cross-referenced. The conservatorship plan alone would be enough to convince any judge of Marcus's true character. But it was the financial analysis that truly shocked me. Over the course of our marriage, Marcus had systematically undervalued my contributions while inflating his own. My architectural firm had brought in over $3 million in revenue over the past 8 years. I'd paid for 60% of our living expenses, including the ongoing maintenance of this house that ate money like a hungry beast. Marcus's salary at Westfield was substantial, but most of it had gone to maintaining his image. Expensive cars, designer clothes, memberships at exclusive clubs where he pretended to be the self-made man. All while telling people I was a failed architect who couldn't hold a real job. The cruelty of it settled over me like a familiar coat. But I wasn't that person anymore. The woman who had believed his narrative of my inadequacy. I'd spent 6 months remembering who I was before Marcus, before the slow erosion of his contempt had worn away my confidence. I was Victoria Elena Morrison. Nation she, graduated top of my class at Berkeley. Built a respected architectural firm specializing in sustainable coastal design. Designed this house that had been featured in 3 international architecture magazines, though Marcus had somehow positioned himself as the client with vision in every article. My phone rang, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Morrison? A young woman's voice, uncertain. Speaking? This is Emma Bradford, from Westfield Industries. I'm calling because I think you should know something about your husband. I sat up straighter. Go on. I'm an executive assistant in Byron Westfield's office. I've been typing up documents, emails, things I'm not supposed to see, but I do anyway. She paused. They're planning something really bad. Your husband and Mr. Westfield. Something about taking your property, claiming you're not mentally fit. I thought someone should warn you. Emma, I said gently, what made you decide to call me? I watched you at the company holiday party last year, she said quietly. The way your husband talked about you when you weren't around, the way he introduced you as his struggling artist wife when someone asked what you did. But I looked you up. You're Victoria Chen. You designed the Morrison House. I studied your work in my architecture program before I ended up in this admin job. My throat tightened. You're an architect. Was training to be one. Couldn't afford to finish the program. But I remember your lecture at Berkeley about sustainable design and empowering your vision. You said that buildings should be honest reflections of the people who create them, not monuments to ego. She laughed bitterly. Your husband is the opposite of everything you talked about. Emma, I need you to be very careful. If Byron and Marcus find out you're warning me... I'm quitting tomorrow anyway, she interrupted. I'm tired of being part of their games. But I wanted you to know that they're planning to file papers on the 15th. And they've been meeting with a judge who belongs to the same club as Byron. They think they have it all arranged. Do you have any documentation? I've been making copies for weeks. Everything goes through my desk eventually. I can get them to you tomorrow if you tell me where. I gave her Catherine Way's office address. Emma, thank you. This took courage. You're what I wanted to be, she said simply. Someone who builds things that matter. I couldn't let them tear you down. After she hung up, I sat in the darkening evening, watching the last light fade from the sky. My house glowed from within, illuminated by the carefully placed lighting I'd designed to make every room feel alive, even at night. In 3 days, that light would start going dark. My laptop pinged. David had sent over the demolition timeline. Thursday, Friday. Interior demolition begins. Non-load-bearing walls, custom fixtures, built-in furniture. Everything salvageable would be removed and stored or sold. Week 2. Secondary structures. The guest house, the 3-car garage with its specially designed charging stations for electric vehicles that Marcus insisted we install, but never used. Week 3. The cantilevered sections. This would be the most complex part, requiring precise engineering to ensure the structure came down safely given its position over the cliff. Week 4. Core structure and foundation, if we decided to go that far. If? I muttered to myself. There was no if anymore. I replied to David, complete demolition. I want the foundation gone too. Return the land to its natural state. His response took a few minutes. That's going to cost an extra $200,000 and require additional permits. Are you sure? Me. Completely sure. I don't want him to have anything to rebuild on. This house dies with this marriage. I spent the rest of the evening documenting everything one final time. I walked through each room with my phone, recording video, narrating the story of every design choice. The living room's asymmetrical fireplace that had required 6 months of engineering consultations. The master bathroom with its infinity tub, positioned to view the ocean. The library with its rolling ladder and custom shelving I'd designed around my grandmother's book collection. In my office, the visible one that Marcus sometimes invaded, I packed the items that mattered. My framed architectural license, the award from the California Council of Architects for Innovative Residential Design. Photographs of my grandmother, the only person who had ever truly believed in me. I left Marcus's things untouched. His expensive watch collection, his signed first edition books he'd never read, his wall of photos showing him with various industry celebrities, all carefully staged to suggest importance he'd never earned. Let it all come down. It was nearly midnight when I finished. I stood in the center of the living room, the house silent around me except for the distant sound of waves. This space had witnessed so much. Dinner parties where Marcus held court while I served in the background. Quiet evenings when I'd worked on designs while he watched television. Gradually accumulating evidence of a life that had never really been shared. Old and dead to him, I whispered to the empty room. The words didn't hurt anymore. They were simply untrue. I was more alive than I'd been in years. Every nerve firing, with purpose and clarity. My phone buzzed. Marcus, staying at the Regency tonight. Don't wait up. Actually, I'll probably stay at Sienna's tomorrow too. Maybe the whole weekend. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I texted David. Change of plans. Start Wednesday night. I want him to come home to destruction already in progress. David. That's aggressive. I like it. We'll need to work through the night Wednesday to make a visible impact. Me. Do it. I'll pay triple for the night crew. I climbed the stairs to the master bedroom. My bedroom. Soon to be nobody's bedroom. I'd sleep here 2 more nights, and then I'd move to the small apartment I'd already rented downtown. Just a temporary space while I figured out what came next. But first, I had to bury the past. Tuesday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that made the California coast famous. I stood on the terrace with my coffee, watching seabirds wheel over the ocean. The house felt different already, as though it knew what was coming. My phone rang. Catherine Way. Marcus has been served, she said without preamble. 20 minutes ago in the lobby of his New York hotel, in front of colleagues. He's calling me every 5 minutes, but I'm not answering. He doesn't know we're representing you. And Byron? Patricia's attorney served him at his office. From what I hear, he threw a chair through his conference room window. He's been trying to reach Marcus, but Marcus's phone is apparently busy calling everyone he knows, trying to figure out what happened. I smiled grimly. When will he realize he can't stop the demolition? I'd say about 4 hours from now when his lawyer looks at the property records and sees your name alone on the deed. The restraining order he's already threatening to file won't hold up. You can't be restrained from modifying or demolishing your own property. And the conspiracy with Byron? We've filed a formal complaint with both the SEC and the California Bar, citing their emails about manipulating your divorce proceedings and attempting an illegal conservatorship. Byron's going to be fighting for his career. Marcus will be lucky if he keeps his job once Byron realizes Marcus's wife is burning down both their houses. Metaphorically and literally, I added. Catherine laughed. I've been practicing law for 20 years. This is the most satisfying case I've ever taken. Are you ready for the media attention? Once people realize what you're doing and why, this is going to be everywhere. Good, I said firmly. I want everyone to know. I want every woman who's been erased by their partner's ego, every person who's been told they're past their prime, every architect who's had their work stolen. I want them all to see what happens when you push someone too far. Victoria, Catherine's voice softened. Are you sure you're okay? This is a massive step. Your house is beautiful. My house is a lie, I corrected. It was supposed to be a home, but it became a museum to Marcus's fictional success. Better to tear it down and start fresh than live in someone else's fantasy. After we hung up, I spent the day at my architectural firm, the real one, not the struggling hobby Marcus described to people. My partner, James Rivera, had been running operations while I dealt with the divorce planning. The Morrison project is moving forward, I told him over lunch at our favorite cafe. Thursday morning, first sledgehammer. James whistled low. You're really doing it. What choice do I have? Marcus was planning to take everything, the house, the firm, my autonomy. He wanted to have me declared incompetent so he could control my assets and live in my house with his mistress while I was institutionalized somewhere. Jesus. James set down his fork. That's not just divorce. That's attempted theft of your entire life. Exactly. So I'm taking the one thing he values most, his imaginary reputation as the man who built that house. By the time I'm done, everyone will know the truth. Marcus Morrison is a fraud who's been riding on his wife's talent and inheritance for nearly a decade. What about you? James asked quietly. Where does Victoria Chen go after this? I looked out the window at the San Francisco street, busy with afternoon traffic and pedestrians moving purposefully toward their destinations. Forward, I said simply. I've already got 3 new projects lined up, commercial work, all high profile, and I'm going back to teaching. Berkeley offered me an adjunct position starting fall semester. Teaching what? Sustainable architecture and professional ethics. I've learned a lot about both in the past few years. I smiled. The course description includes a unit on how buildings reflect the values of their creators, and what happens when those values are corrupted. James raised his water glass. To new beginnings built on solid foundations. I clinked my glass against his, and to burning down the monuments to lies. That evening, I returned to the house one last time as its whole, inhabitable self. Tomorrow night, David's crew would arrive. By Thursday morning, Marcus would be on a plane back from New York, racing to stop something that was already legally unstoppable. I walked through each room slowly, saying goodbye not to the physical structure, but to the version of myself who had believed this house could make me happy. That Victoria had thought a beautiful building could compensate for an ugly marriage. She'd been wrong. In the master bedroom, I packed the last of my essential belongings into suitcases. Everything else, the expensive linens Marcus had insisted on, The designer clothes I'd bought trying to fit his image of what a successful man's wife should look like. I left behind. David had arranged for an estate sale company to liquidate everything before the demolition started. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from Marcus's friends, colleagues, even his mother. "What's happening with Marcus? He sounds hysterical." "This is ridiculous, Victoria. You can't just divorce him without warning." "Marcus says you're trying to steal his house. How could you?" I responded to none of them. The truth would be obvious soon enough. At midnight, I took one final walk through the house. The moonlight streamed through the windows I'd positioned to capture exactly this view, the Pacific stretching endless and silver to the horizon. The cliff face dropped away below the cantilevered section, making the house feel suspended between earth and sky. It was magnificent. It was a triumph of design and engineering. And in approximately 48 hours, it would start coming down. I stood in the center of the living room, the space where Marcus had called me old and dead, and I felt nothing but peace. "I'm not dead," I said aloud to the empty house. "You are." Wednesday morning, I moved my final belongings into my new apartment, a modest but bright space downtown with views of the city instead of the ocean. It felt right, being surrounded by the hum of human activity instead of isolated on that cliff with only my thoughts and Marcus's contempt for company. David called at noon. Crews assembled. We start at midnight. I've got security posted to keep Marcus out when he inevitably shows up tomorrow. The media's been tipped off, discreetly, by Patricia Westfield's team. Apparently, she wants maximum exposure for both our situations. Perfect. Has Marcus figured out yet that he can't stop this? According to his lawyer, who called me thinking I was just a contractor, no. They're planning to file for an emergency injunction at 9 a.m. tomorrow to halt construction. That's why we're starting tonight. By the time that judge sees their request, we'll already have done enough damage that the structural integrity will be compromised. The house will have to come down regardless. David, are you sure about this? I don't want you risking your license for me. Victoria, his voice was firm. You gave me my first job when everyone else said I was too young and inexperienced. You mentored me. You trusted me with projects that established my reputation. This house was our collaboration. Yours primarily, but I was part of it. If you say it needs to come down, I believe you. Besides, he added dryly, all our permits are in order. We're not doing anything illegal. Just morally questionable? Morally justified, he corrected. Marcus tried to steal your life. You're just reclaiming your art. That afternoon, I met with the journalist from the San Francisco Chronicle, a woman named Diana Rothberg who specialized in architecture and design. We sat in a cafe, and I told her everything: the inheritance, the design process, Marcus's escalating erasure of my contributions, his infidelity, and finally, the conspiracy to have me declared incompetent. Diana recorded every word, her expression shifting from professional interest to barely contained outrage. "And you have documentation of all this?" she asked. I handed her a thumb drive. Every email, every financial record, every hotel receipt. My attorney has cleared me to share it with you. I want people to understand that this isn't a story about a vindictive ex-wife. It's about a woman reclaiming her narrative. The demolition starts tonight? Midnight. You're welcome to document it, but stay clear of the work zones. This is a dangerous operation. Diana leaned forward. Victoria, I've been covering architecture in this city for 15 years. I've never heard of anything like this. An architect deliberately destroying her own masterpiece. People are going to have strong opinions. Good. Let them. For too long, I stayed silent while Marcus rewrote history. He told people he designed that house. He told people I was a failed architect. He told his mistress I was old and dead to him. I met her eyes steadily. I'm showing everyone that I'm very much alive, and that I have the power to create and destroy what's mine. Some will call it wasteful, destroying something so beautiful. And I'll tell them that beauty built on lies isn't beautiful at all. It's a monument to deception. Better to tear it down and build something honest in its place. Diana smiled slowly. This is going to be one hell of a story. My editors already cleared it for the front page of the Sunday edition. We'll have the full piece with photos of the demolition in progress. I want you to include the architectural drawings, I said. The original ones with my signature. I want people to see who really designed that house. After Diana left, I sat in the cafe for another hour, watching the city move around me. Tomorrow, my phone would explode with calls and messages. The story would spread across social media, news outlets, architecture forums. I'd be called everything from a hero to a lunatic. But I'd be called by my own name. Not Marcus's wife. Not the struggling architect. Not the old dead woman invisible in her own home. Victoria Elena Chen Morrison. Architect, destroyer of lies, builder of something new. My phone buzzed. Patricia Westfield. Byron's been suspended from his firm pending investigation. Marcus has been put on administrative leave at Westfield Industries. Are we winning or are we winning? Me. We're just getting started. Midnight tonight, the real demolition begins. Patricia. I'll be there with champagne. Diana Rothberg called me for a quote. I told her everything about Byron's role in the conservatorship scheme. This is going to bury both of them. Me. Good. They tried to bury us first. At 11 p.m., I drove back to the house for the last time. David's trucks were already there, along with equipment that looked ominous in the darkness. Excavators, sledgehammers, industrial saws. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, setting up lights that would illuminate the demolition. Ready? David asked, handing me a hard hat. I looked up at the house. My house, standing proud against the night sky. The windows glowed softly from the interior lights on timers. From the outside, it looked perfect, peaceful, eternal. Ready? I confirmed. David handed me a sledgehammer. First swing is yours. Where do you want to start? I didn't hesitate. The master bedroom, where he told me I was dead to him. We climbed the stairs together, the crew following with equipment. The master bedroom was exactly as I'd left it. The bed perfectly made. Marcus's expensive watch collection gleaming in its display case. The walk-in closet full of designer suits he'd bought with money from our joint account while telling me I should be grateful he supported my hobby. I raised the sledgehammer and swung at the far wall. The one Marcus had insisted we paint in a specific shade of gray to match his vision of sophistication. The wall crumbled under the impact, drywall cracking and splintering. This is for every time you told me I was past my prime, I said, swinging again. Crack. For every colleague who believed your lies about designing this house. Crack. For Sienna and the others, paraded through my home like I was already gone. Crack. And this, I swung one final time, breaking through to the exterior wall and letting in a rush of salt air, is for calling me dead. I've never been more alive. The crew took over then, systematically dismantling the bedroom with practiced efficiency. Within an hour, the space was gutted. exposing the skeleton of beams and supports I'd engineered to hold the cantilevered section over the cliff. I moved through the house with David, marking walls for demolition, pointing out which fixtures could be salvaged and sold. My grandmother's chandelier from the foyer. That would be saved. The custom kitchen cabinets I'd designed, saved. The fireplace mantel carved with Marcus's family crest that he'd insisted on, that could turn to rubble. By 3 a.m., the transformation was shocking. The house looked wounded, exposed, violated. Exactly how I'd felt for the past 2 years. Diana Rothberg arrived with a photographer just before dawn. They documented everything. The piles of debris, the exposed framework, me standing in the wreckage wearing my hard hat, arms crossed, face set with determination. "How does it feel?" Diana asked, her recorder running. "Honest," I said simply. For the first time in years, this house is being honest about what it really is. The sun rose over the Pacific, painting the destruction in gold and pink light. The house's skeleton stood stark against the beauty of the dawn. No longer perfect, but finally true. Marcus's plane landed at 10 a.m. Thursday morning. I knew because I'd been tracking his flight on my phone while standing in the ruins of what used to be our living room. The cantilevered section was still intact. David wanted to save that for maximum dramatic effect, but everything behind it was skeletal, exposed, violated. My phone started ringing at 10:47 a.m. "Marcus." I declined the call. It rang again immediately. Declined. Then the text started flooding in. "What the fuck did you do? Call me right now. You crazy bitch, what have you done to my house?" I showed the messages to Diana, who was still documenting everything. She photographed them for her article. "His house," I said to her camera. "Notice how he still thinks it's his." At 11:15 a.m., Marcus's BMW came screaming up the driveway, gravel spraying under his tires. David's security team was ready, blocking the entrance to the property with their vehicles. I watched from the terrace, what remained of it, as Marcus jumped out of his car, still wearing his rumpled business suit from the flight. His face was red, twisted with rage. "Victoria!" His voice carried up to where I stood. "Victoria, you come down here right now." I walked to the edge of the demolished section, looking down at him. David handed me a megaphone. He'd anticipated this moment. "I'm busy, Marcus. As you can see, I have contractors to supervise." "This is illegal! I've called my lawyer. You can't just destroy our home." "My home," I corrected, my voice amplified and echoing. "My name on the deed. My inheritance that paid for it. My design. My home. And I can do whatever I want with my property. I'll sue you for everything you have." "With what money? You've been suspended from Westfield Industries. Byron's under investigation. Your conspiracy to declare me incompetent and steal my assets is now public record, thanks to the SEC complaint and the California bar investigation." I paused. "Oh, and your mother called. She saw the Chronicle article this morning. She's very disappointed in you." Marcus staggered as if I'd struck him. "What article?" "The one with the headline, 'Old and Dead. How one husband's cruelty led an architect to demolish her own masterpiece.' It's gone viral. You're trending on social media. Not the way you wanted, though." Diana stepped up beside me, camera raised. "Mr. Morrison, would you like to comment on the accusations of infidelity and financial fraud?" Marcus's eyes widened as he recognized her. You're from the Chronicle. This is a setup." "This is journalism," Diana corrected. Your wife gave me access to document the demolition. The timing of your arrival is just fortunate for my story. I'll sue you too. This is defamation. Truth is an absolute defense, Diana said calmly. Everything in my article is backed by documentation. Emails, financial records, hotel receipts. Your lawyer will tell you that you don't have a case. Marcus turned back to me, and for a moment, something that might have been real emotion crossed his face. Victoria, please. This house, it's worth millions. Think about what you're doing. I have thought about it. For 6 months, I've thought about nothing else. While you were with Sienna, I was planning this. While you were telling your friends I was unemployable, I was securing demolition permits. While you and Byron were conspiring to steal my life, I was making sure you'd have nothing to steal. This is insane! You're proving I was right. You are crazy. I smiled, not kindly. Actually, Marcus, I'm proving that I'm an extremely competent architect who knows exactly how to legally dismantle a structure she designed. Every permit is in order. Every safety regulation is being followed. This demolition will be studied in engineering schools as a model of precision deconstruction. David joined me at the edge. Mr. Morrison, you need to leave the property. You're not authorized to be here, and you're interfering with a permitted construction operation. Construction? You're destroying it. Semantics. The permits say structural modification and demolition. Both are construction activities under California law. And you're trespassing. Marcus looked between us, his face cycling through expressions: rage, disbelief, calculation, and finally, something like fear. Victoria, please, can we talk about this? Alone? No. Everything you need to say, you can say in divorce court. Your attorney has the papers. I suggest you focus on your response. Catherine Way doesn't lose cases. Catherine Way? Marcus's face went pale. You hired Catherine Way? She was very interested in my case, especially the part about the illegal conservatorship scheme. Apparently, she's made a career out of protecting women from exactly the kind of predatory behavior you and Byron were planning. A car pulled up behind Marcus's BMW. Sienna got out, her young face confused and worried. Marcus, what's happening? Why are they destroying your house? The silence that followed was exquisite. I saw the moment Marcus realized the trap he was in. Admit the truth to his mistress, or keep lying and look even worse. I decided to help him. Sienna, was it? I'm Victoria, Marcus's wife. This is my house that I designed and built with my inheritance. Marcus has been lying to you about almost everything. He didn't design this house. He doesn't own this house. And judging by the fact that he's currently suspended from his job for conspiracy to commit fraud, he won't be able to afford to take you to expensive restaurants much longer. Sienna looked at Marcus. You said you were getting divorced. You said the house was yours and she was just bitter about having to leave. I am getting divorced, Marcus said desperately. Victoria's just being vindictive. I filed for divorce Monday, I interrupted. The same day you were served in New York. The same day you were planning to file papers to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my property. The same day your conspiracy with Byron Westfield became public record. Would you like to see the emails where you two discussed how to institutionalize me? Sienna's hand went to her mouth. Institutionalize? Marcus, what is she talking about? She's lying. She's crazy. Look what she's doing to this beautiful house. Beautiful house that she designed, Diana interjected, her camera still recording. I have the original architectural drawings with Victoria's signature. I've spoken to the contractors who worked on the build. They all confirmed that Victoria was the architect of record and that you, Mr. Morrison, rarely appeared at the site. Sienna backed away from Marcus, her expression shifting from confusion to revulsion. You said you built this house. You showed me the blueprints and said it was your vision. My vision? Her execution. Stop, Sienna said sharply. Just stop. Oh my God, Marcus. You lied about everything. Sienna, wait. But she was already getting back in her car. Lose my number and get therapy. Seriously, you need help. She drove away, leaving Marcus standing alone in the driveway. The security team remained positioned between him and the property, impassive. You've ruined my life, Marcus said, his voice hollow. No, I corrected. I've exposed your lies. You ruined your own life by building it on a foundation of fraud and stolen credit. I'm just the architect who decided to condemn the structure. That's clever, he said bitterly. Did you practice that line? Actually, yes, for about 6 months. Want to hear the others? You called me old and dead, so I buried the monument to your ego. Or how about, you tried to erase me, so I erased the evidence of your imaginary success. I have a whole collection. Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and whatever he saw drained the remaining color from his face. My mother's disowned me. She says I'm not welcome in her home until I make this right. You can't make this right, Marcus. That's what you don't understand. You spent years systematically destroying my confidence, stealing credit for my work, planning to rob me of my autonomy. There is no making it right. There's only consequences. I loved you, he said, and for the first time he sounded like he actually believed it. No, you didn't. You loved what I could give you. Money, status, a beautiful home you could pretend to have created. You loved the story you told about yourself. I was just a prop in your narrative. I paused. But you know what? I loved you. For years I loved you enough to let you take credit, to stay small so you could feel big, to accept being called old and dead while you paraded younger women through my home. That's what love looks like when it's twisted by someone's cruelty. It becomes complicity in your own erasure. So what now? Marcus asked. You destroy the house, destroy my career, destroy my reputation. Then what? Then I build something new. That's what architects do, Marcus. We create, we demolish when structures are unsound, and we create again. You were just too busy pretending to be an architect to understand the actual work. A larger truck pulled up, one of David's heavy equipment vehicles. The excavator on the flatbed gleamed in the midday sun. That's for the cantilevered section, I told Marcus. The part you loved to brag about. The part that required 3 months of complex engineering calculations and a custom foundation. It comes down tomorrow. You're welcome to watch, but you'll have to do it from the road. You're not allowed on my property. Our property. California's a community property state. For assets acquired during marriage. This land was mine before we married. The construction was funded by my inheritance, also mine before marriage. Your lawyer already knows this. That's why the emergency injunction was denied. You have no legal claim to this house, Marcus. You never did. David approached us. Victoria, we're ready for the next phase. Do you want him gone before we start on the West Wing? Yes. I don't want him breathing my demolition dust. It's too good for him. Marcus looked up at the skeletal remains of the house one more time. I did love this house. Then you should have loved the woman who created it, I said simply. Goodbye, Marcus. See you in court. The security team escorted him to his car. He drove away slowly, and I watched until his BMW disappeared down the coastal road. Diana lowered her camera. That was incredible. The whole thing. His arrival, Sienna leaving him, everything. My editor is going to lose her mind over this footage. Use it all, I said. I want everyone to see what happens when you treat someone as disposable. I want every woman who's been erased to know they can fight back. And I want every Marcus out there to think twice before stealing credit from someone who trusted them. The demolition continued through the afternoon. The West Wing came down with surprising speed. Walls that had taken months to build reduced to rubble in hours. David's crew worked with practiced efficiency, salvaging materials where possible, documenting everything for both safety compliance and Diana's article. By evening, the house was barely recognizable. Only the cantilevered section remained, jutting out over the cliff like a diving board, suspended in space without the support structure that had surrounded it. "Tomorrow," David said, standing beside me as we surveyed the destruction. "Tomorrow, we take down the signature piece. Are you absolutely sure?" I looked at the cantilevered section, the engineering marvel that had been featured in architecture magazines around the world. It was beautiful, innovative, a triumph of design, and it had to go. "I'm sure. That section represents everything Marcus loved about this house. The showiness, the drama, the look-at-me grandeur. It's the part he bragged about most, so it has to be the last thing to fall." "It's going to be spectacular," David warned. "That much structure falling into the ravine, it'll be loud, visible for miles. Everyone will know." "Good. Let them watch." That night, I returned to my apartment and finally allowed myself to feel the weight of what I'd done. The house, my house, was almost gone. The dream I'd built was rubble, and I felt free. My phone rang. Catherine Way. "I have news," she said. "Byron Westfield has been formally charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and attempted conservatorship abuse. Marcus is named as a co-conspirator. The California bar is moving to have Byron disbarred." "And Marcus?" "He's facing a civil suit from Westfield Industries for misuse of company resources and damage to their reputation. They're going after his pension and demanding he repay years of inflated expense reports. Plus, our divorce case is rock solid. With the evidence of infidelity, financial deception, and the conspiracy, I estimate you'll come out with not only your assets protected, but a significant portion of his future earnings." "I don't want his money," I said. "I want my reputation back." "You'll have that, too." Diana's article comes out Sunday, but advance copies are already circulating. The architectural community is rallying behind you. I've had calls from 3 professional organizations asking if you'd speak at their conferences about creative ownership and professional ethics. Really? Victoria, you're becoming a symbol. Not of vindictiveness, but of refusal to be erased. Women architects, particularly, are sharing your story everywhere. You're showing that fighting back doesn't mean playing by the rules set by the people who tried to silence you. After we hung up, I checked social media. Catherine was right. The story had exploded. Victoria Chen is my hero. How many women have watched men take credit for their work? She said no more. Some people say she's destroying something beautiful, but you can't call it beautiful when it's built on stolen credit and lies. Marcus Morrison's career is over, and I'm here for it. Consequences for toxic men. That house was a monument to his ego built with her talent. Of course, she tore it down. Not everyone was supportive. There were plenty of critics. What a waste. That house was worth millions, and she destroyed it out of spite. This is just a bitter divorce taken too far. She could have sold it. Destroying something beautiful because you're angry is psychotic behavior. I didn't respond to any of it. The people who understood, understood. The people who didn't had probably never been erased by someone they trusted. Friday morning arrived gray and misty, the coastal fog rolling in thick. Perfect weather for what came next. I arrived at the property at dawn. A crowd had gathered on the public road. News crews, photographers, curious onlookers. Diana had mentioned that word had spread about the final demolition phase. David met me at the security checkpoint. Media circus out there. Everyone wants to see the famous cantilevered section come down. Are you ready for this to be public? Let them watch, I said. Let them see what happens when you push an architect to demolish her own creation. The fog began to lift as David's crew made final preparations. The excavator positioned itself carefully, its arm extending toward the cantilevered section. Engineers had calculated the exact points where the supports needed to be severed to ensure the structure fell cleanly into the ravine without endangering anyone. I stood at a safe distance, wearing my hard hat, surrounded by cameras and journalists. Diana stayed close, her recorder running. "How do you feel right now?" she asked. "Powerful," I said honestly. For years, I felt invisible. Today, everyone's watching me reclaim what's mine, even if reclaiming it means destroying it. The excavator's arm moved. The first support beam groaned, metal straining. The crowd went silent. Crack. The second support gave way. The cantilevered section shuddered, suspended impossibly for a moment. "This is for every woman who's been told she's past her prime," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "For everyone who's had their work stolen and their contributions erased." Crack. The third support failed. The cantilevered section, Marcus's favorite piece, the part he'd bragged about most, the architectural marvel that had been featured in magazines, tilted toward the ravine. And this is for anyone who's ever been called old and dead by someone who never truly saw them. The final support beam sheared away with a scream of tearing metal. The cantilevered section hung for one impossibly long moment, suspended between past and future, between what was and what would be. Then it fell. The sound was tremendous. Tons of concrete, steel and glass plummeting into the ravine, crashing against rocks. The Pacific Ocean spray rising up to meet the falling debris. It seemed to fall forever, this piece of my dream, this monument to lies. When it finally hit bottom, the impact echoed like thunder. The crowd gasped, cameras flashed, and I stood there, watching my masterpiece complete its transformation from creation to destruction. "It's beautiful," someone near me whispered. And it was. The destruction was as precise and intentional as the creation had been. The falling structure made a statement as powerful as its standing form ever had. Diana lowered her camera, tears on her face. "Victoria, I've never seen anything like that." "Neither have I said. "And I designed it." The excavator moved forward, beginning the process of clearing the foundation. By evening, nothing would remain but bare earth. The land returned to its natural state, as if the house had never existed. My phone buzzed. Emma Bradford, the young executive assistant who had warned me about the conspiracy. "I just watched the video of the demolition. Ms. Chen, Victoria, that was the most powerful thing I've ever seen. You took everything you built and chose to destroy it rather than let them steal it." That's not destruction. That's art. I replied, "Thank you, Emma. How are you doing?" I quit Westfield like I said I would. But guess what? I applied to Berkeley's architecture program. They have a scholarship for women returning to education. I'm using your story in my application essay. You reminded me why I wanted to be an architect in the first place. Tears pricked my eyes. You'll be amazing. And Emma? When you finish your degree, call me. My firm is always looking for talented architects who understand that buildings should be honest. By Sunday, Diana's article hit the front page of the San Francisco Chronicle. The headline read, "Old and Dead. One woman's decision to demolish her $1 million home and the marriage built on lies." The article was comprehensive. Interviews with me, David, contractors who had worked on the original build, even statements from Sienna and Patricia Westfield. Diana had tracked down Marcus's former colleagues, who admitted he'd always taken credit for work others did. She'd found my former professors, who praised my talent and expressed shock at how thoroughly Marcus had erased me from the narrative of the house's creation. But the most powerful part was the photos. The house in its glory, then the progressive demolition, and finally, me standing at the edge of the empty lot where my dream had stood, looking out at the Pacific with something like peace on my face. The article ended with my quote, "They say you shouldn't burn bridges. But sometimes the bridge is rotting from within, and the only way to move forward is to tear it down and build something new." I didn't destroy my house out of spite. I destroyed it because it had become a lie, and I refused to live in anything built on lies ever again. The response was overwhelming. By Monday, I'd received interview requests from NPR, the New York Times, Architectural Digest, and 3 television news programs. My architectural firm's website crashed from traffic. And most importantly, I'd received over 200 messages from women, architects, artists, entrepreneurs, thanking me for showing them that fighting back was possible. The divorce proceedings moved swiftly. Marcus, facing criminal charges and civil lawsuits, had no leverage. Catherine negotiated a settlement that protected all my assets and awarded me a portion of his future earnings to compensate for years of stolen credit and emotional abuse. Byron Westfield was disbarred and charged with multiple counts of fraud. His wife, Patricia, divorced him, and I heard through the grapevine that she'd started a foundation to help women escape predatory marriages. Marcus disappeared from public life. His mother refused to speak to him. Sienna had posted a lengthy social media thread about the experience, warning other young women about men who lied about their accomplishments. The last I heard, Marcus was living in a studio apartment in Sacramento, working as a junior analyst at a small firm, the kind of position he'd mocked me for supposedly being unable to get. 3 months after the demolition, I stood on the empty lot where my house had been. The land had been cleared completely, returned to its natural state. Native grasses were already beginning to reclaim the space. David stood beside me. "What are you going to do with it?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm going to let it heal. Let it return to what it was before I tried to build a dream on it. Maybe someday I'll create something here again. Or maybe I'll donate it for a nature preserve. But right now it needs to be empty." No regrets? About the house? No. It was beautiful, but it had become corrupted by what it represented. Better to destroy it and preserve the integrity of the original vision than let it stand as Marcus's monument. And about Marcus? I considered the question. I regret loving someone who saw me as disposable. I regret the years I spent making myself smaller to fit his narrative. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret showing everyone who tried to erase me that I'm the one with the power to create and destroy. They called me old and dead. I showed them I'm more alive than ever. James from my firm pulled up in his car. Ready? The Berkeley students are waiting for your guest lecture. I took one last look at the empty lot, the cliff, the Pacific stretching endlessly ahead. Then I turned away and walked toward my future. The lecture hall at Berkeley was packed, not just architecture students, but women from across the university, drawn by news of my story. I stood at the podium, looking out at faces that reminded me of who I'd been at their age, full of dreams and ambition. Today, I want to talk about creative ownership, I began. About what happens when someone tries to steal not just your work, but your identity as a creator. About fighting back, even when it costs you everything you built. I showed them slides, the house in its glory, then its demolition, then the empty lot. I showed them the original blueprints with my signature. I showed them screenshots of Marcus's lies and the articles that had given him credit for my work. Some people think I destroyed that house out of anger. I continued, but I didn't. I destroyed it out of clarity. The house had become a symbol of my erasure. Every brick a reminder of my stolen credit. Every room an echo of my invisibility. Destroying it wasn't rage. It was reclamation. A hand went up, a young woman with bright, fierce eyes. But wasn't it wasteful? Couldn't you have sold it and used the money for something productive? That's a fair question, I acknowledged. And yes, I could have. But some statements can't be made with money. Some truths require destruction to be understood. I needed everyone, especially the people who had enabled Marcus's theft of my work, to see that I had the power to unmake what I had made. That I was the architect, the creator, the decision maker. Selling would have been practical. Destroying was necessary. Another hand. What advice would you give to women in male-dominated fields who face similar erasure? Document everything, I said firmly. Keep your original files, your sketches, your emails. Build a paper trail that proves your contributions. But more than that, believe in your worth enough to fight for it. I spent years accepting Marcus's narrative because confronting it seemed too difficult. When I finally fought back, I fought with everything I had. Don't wait as long as I did. After the lecture, students crowded around with questions, stories, gratitude. The young woman who'd asked about waste approached me last. I'm sorry if my question seemed critical, she said. It's just, that house was so beautiful. It hurts to see beauty destroyed. I understand, I told her gently. But beauty built on lies isn't beautiful. It's a disguise. Real beauty has integrity. It's honest about its origins and its purpose. That house was gorgeous, but it had become a costume for someone else's ego. Better to destroy it and create something honest than preserve a beautiful lie. She nodded slowly. I think I get it now. It wasn't about the house. It was about you. Exactly. It was about refusing to be old and dead, about showing everyone that I'm very much alive and powerful and unwilling to be erased. 6 months later, I stood in my firm's conference room, presenting plans for a new project, a women's shelter with innovative, sustainable design, funded by Patricia Westfield's new foundation. The building would be beautiful, functional, and most importantly, honest about its purpose and its creator. My phone buzzed. An email from Marcus's lawyer. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. My client wishes to express his remorse for his actions and asks if you would consider a conversation about reconciliation. I deleted it without finishing. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Diana Rothberg's article had won a journalism award. Emma Bradford had been accepted to Berkeley's architecture program. Patricia Westfield's foundation was helping dozens of women escape predatory relationships. And me? I was building again. Not houses for people who would take credit, but structures that would stand as honest representations of the work I did and the values I held. The empty lot on the cliff remained empty. Sometimes I drove by, looking at the bare land where my dream had stood, but I didn't feel regret. I felt peace. Because I'd learned the most important lesson an architect can learn. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can build is the courage to demolish what no longer serves you. Sometimes, the most honest design is the one that acknowledges when a foundation is too corrupt to support anything real. Marcus had called me old and dead, so I'd buried the monument to his lies and risen from the rubble more powerful than ever. Not destroyed, reborn, not dead, fiercely, powerfully alive. And that was the truth no one could take from me. Not through theft, not through lies, not through erasure. I was Victoria Elena Chen Morrison, architect, creator, destroyer of lies. And I was just getting started. The foundation of my new building was being poured next week. Built on honest ground, designed with integrity, created without apology. This time, when people asked who designed it, there would be no confusion. This time, everyone would know my name. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.